Folks, as you can see here, Donald Trump is not looking good and has not been for a long time. This is an entire thread, starting off with this video from the 9/11 memorial today, where we can see pretty clearly, and even more clearly in later photos, that Trump's face is slouched to the side, sparking investigative journalist Adam Cochran to do a pretty intensive deep dive here, asking at what point are we going to clue in to the president's stroke? And we're going to take a look at all of the recent evidence he's gathered as well as what came from today. But one of the examples I want to focus in on really quickly first here is this weird and concerning glitch from Donald Trump's video yesterday announcing the horrific assassination of political activist Charlie Kirk. Without getting too into the weeds of the content, but people online called Trump's remarks on the incident absolutely disgusting and disgraceful, and they sparked a lot of outrage, primarily because Trump was blaming Democrats for Kirk's murder in the address, accusing them of comparing, quote, wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. Trump also did not mention recent incidents of right-wing sympathizers attacking Democrats in his call to end political violence, which we all know is exactly what the right wants. I am still putting together my thoughts on this whole thing, so we're going to move on from that and focus on the specific technical glitches that were happening during Trump's address that started to spark concern from even his own MAGA base that the video was AI generated and that either Trump being AI enhanced to appear more healthy or better, or that he wasn't even there at all and it was a completely made up AI Donald Trump delivering these remarks. I'm going to blow this part of the speech up here to show you exactly what caught people's eye and made them think this was fake.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight, all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot.
Okay, right there. His body seems to jump, and this caught people very off guard. Here, check this out. You can kind of see it here. Yep, right there. So I have scrubbed through this footage and I have an interpretation coming up for you, right? Almost immediately, those online began questioning whether the video was generated by artificial intelligence. One of the most popular voices on social media questioning the video focused on two notable observations. First, a blip appears over Trump's head where the trees are seen through the Oval Office window. Second, the tips of Trump's fingers appear to vanish and his ring finger disappears entirely at one point. Matt Binder, author of the Disruptionist newsletter and host of the Scam Economy podcast, said this very much looks like an AI avatar of Trump delivering an official message for the president. His body and hands barely move for the entire video. Also, they missed this weird glitch. What's going on here? And this blew up pretty quickly. Community notes were submitted to Twitter. Twitter accounts that track whether Trump has passed away also claimed the video was AI generated, getting over 10,000 likes. And the most popular comment on the matter came from a Brooklyn-based writer named Kate, who generated nearly 950,000 views on the post and over 62,000 likes, saying, sure, maybe they're using AI to cover up Trump's medical issues, but I think the funnier scenario is that he's actually fine and just didn't care enough to sit down and film the whole video. But this creator, who analyzes AI videos for a living, seemed to find some pretty clear evidence that the video is real and from the White House as the source, but just has some very weird editing glitches. It looks like they stitched a couple clips together.
There's no proof he used AI for this speech, but here's why so many of you thought he did. First, there are subtle movements in the trees which AI does not do, but the most compelling and clear real-life proof are the very specific, subtle window reflections. In addition to the visible movements of the camera operator in the glass, is a distinct, subtle reflection of white text scrolling over a blue background on the teleprompter. This is hidden by the TikTok and Instagram UI, but visible in the tweets. It has a realistic teleprompter scrolling cadence, and any seasoned camera operator would identify that. There is also a subtle blue glare shining across the camera lens to match that background. That's why it has a blue tint. He dutifully follows the teleprompter, as I am now, while he is sad, as I am now, as I defend a man who likes to call real things AI whenever he wants. nuts, but here I am anyway. But seriously, AI would not mimic those very specific mistakes. There are plenty of other little nuances in his body and hands that AI cannot do well yet. And with the duration of the video and no visible gaps in editing, there's no evidence of AI that can't more easily be explained by typical encoding and camera principles. Oh, and by the way, last week I proved the open window White House video was real with the same methods I just used. So obviously I'm not a fan of making any friends around here.
But with that out of the way, it sure didn't help Donald Trump's case because of what was happening today. But today, in ailing health, and while duly paying respects to those who lost their lives on 9/11, Trump is barely able to control the right side of his face. Slightly tangential, but worth noting, at this event, he also said that he was going to award Charlie Kirk the Medal of Freedom at a 9/11 memorial event. I'm just going to let that sink in, do with it what you will, but yeah. Adam points out that there's growing evidence that the White House is in fact covering up the fact that Donald Trump has been dealing with TIA strokes. We actually made a video about this back in the end of August when the initial thread that Adam put together that this picture is from came out. He then uses some close-up shots that show when Trump grimaces or frowns, the right side of his face droops entirely. In addition to that, you have his voice remaining consistent with post-stroke dysarthria. We've heard this multiple times recently when he was on the phone with MAGA CNN host Scott Jennings, and he's been in public recently. Even in that Charlie Kirk video, if you go back and listen to the whole thing, you can hear his voice kind of doing these things, right? The resonance of your voice may sound nasal or hyponasal. It could be hoarse or harsh. You may have difficulty getting good breath support while speaking, resulting in a quiet voice, talking on inhalation, or only getting a few words out before needing to breathe again. And it's worth noting that these are both symptoms of a stroke, but also of brain injury and dementia. Here's another video of him struggling to hold weight or maintain his grip on his right hand. You can see as he holds up an executive order. Not exactly the heaviest thing in the world. And I apologize, the Twitter video clip quality here is absolutely horrendous. Another image, he holds in a loose clutch when using his right hand. He gingerly holds the booklet with this odd 3-finger grip on the right side, even though his hand muscles look tense. He is unable to apply pressure. This is also something that came up in the Charlie Kirk video where his fingers appear twitchy and kind of seem to like expand or morph or whatever. They're saying that that's mostly due to editing, probably like a morph edit in Premiere Pro, but the twitchiness of his fingers could very much be natural movement. You then have this sped up version that we talked about very recently in another video from Midas Touch when he struggles to maintain a straight line when walking or being upright or even speaking. You've seen this with his, that lean that he always has. The forward lean. And all of this, we talked about up to about 9 other, maybe even 10 other things before we even get to his cankles and his hand bruising, right? Not to mention the bruised hands, which can be a rapid injection site for blood clot busting medications during a TIA or stroke, or the uniform leg edema indicating CCB medications. So maybe the White House is telling the truth about him having chronic venous insufficiency, or maybe they're saying that in order to hide the fact that he actually had a stroke. He goes on to wrap it up by saying, people make the mistake of thinking TIAs and strokes always mean severe, visible damage and poor recovery. The reality is, the long-term damage beyond the first week of recovery depends on the time to intervention. Having a 24/7 medical staff changes that outcome significantly. But we are seeing physical features on the president that align again and again and again with having had a stroke. We see health indicators that don't match his current medications, but do match post-stroke medications. We are repeatedly seeing a man who tried to convince the world that for a week he just didn't want to talk to reporters and was in great health while walking around like this. The White House is continuing to hide details about the president's health because they know that Vance does not have the same level of hold over the base and Congress, and so we lack clarity on if the president can safely manage his duties. If the president has had a stroke, it's not just concerns of vascular dementia or function we need to worry about, it's a national security risk. If the president could at any time be at risk from even just additional stress or another TIA or ischemic attack. And Adam ends this saying, I've covered this for weeks and been called a conspiracy nut for it, but every bit of evidence we see continues to align. The White House must disclose the president's health and medications fully, because how else can we conclude anything but a stroke? And therefore, he filed a Freedom of Information request with the Department of Defense over the White House pharmacy records. And we will be sure to keep you in the loop as this story transpires and if there are any more indicators here. But I do find it hard to believe, while it is commendable that Adam did this, that he will get anywhere with this Freedom of Information request. I mean, we are talking about the least transparent administration in history and a literal authoritarian fascist regime. They want us to believe Trump's bruises are from handshakes. They want us to believe that the left is responsible for stoking political violence. They want us to believe that the Democrats and we called for what happened to Charlie Kirk, which couldn't be further from the truth. So no, I don't think we're ever going to get any actual information about Trump's health until the day he passes away and they can't hide it anymore. And for that reason, while trying to be as factual and give you the information that I have access to and what I think about it, debunking AI claims, but showing you what the internet thinks, it feels like, and I am comfortable with, the only thing being going to these sources and digging through stuff that, while I cannot confirm because the people with the information won't give me that information. So what do we have other than speculation and taking the evidence that we can gather within the community and sharing it amongst ourselves? And where I'll end this here is the past couple of days have been a fucking unmitigated disaster. I personally still haven't figured out how or what to say, and so I'm going to refrain for the time being, other than absolutely condemning any sort of political violence. Because ultimately, it does us no fucking good. The right is having exactly the same reaction that I anticipated they would, calling for war, blaming the left, stoking even more violence because that is what they want. And when it's one of their own, it just helps to fuel that fire. They couldn't give a shit about his wife, his now widowed wife, and his now fatherless children. They really couldn't. If they did, then they would make actual movements on common sense gun legislation, but they've never done that. They don't care about the children. Otherwise, they'd give them healthcare and free food in schools and stop fighting those things and stop taking away their parents' Medicare or the child tax credit. So I'm not going to fucking sit here and debate that bullshit. But what I will say, even though in a very recent video I did and full-throatedly said and still believe, like, I cannot wait for the day that we don't have to deal with Donald Trump anymore. Them going away like that especially doesn't fucking solve anything. In fact, it makes it worse. Like, Trump getting shot at, I think, is a large reason he was elected. Making martyrs of these people who spew hateful things and incite the exact same violence that leads to the ends of lives of people who are just as valuable as any other person on this planet, as a Palestinian child, is reprehensible. And so we need to actually do the hard work of addressing what the root cause is. And the root cause is not that fucking hard. It shouldn't be a fucking left-right issue because it is a gun issue.
There's no place for political violence in America. Okay, get rid of the Second Amendment then. Well, no, we need the Second Amendment. But it's literally a stipulation for political violence. Well, that's only in the case of a tyrannical government. Who gets to decide if a government's tyrannical? The American people. How many? What? How many people? Like 2 people? Because 2 people saw Trump as tyrannical and so they try to bear arms against him. Were they just using their Second Amendment right? Well, no, it's got to be a group of people that form a well-regulated militia. Yeah, how many people? 100? 1,000? 1,000,000? Well, there's no exact number. Right, so an unspecified quantity of American citizens can bear arms against a government that they deem is tyrannical. So they wipe that government out and they become government. And then another group of people say, no, you're tyrannical. They wipe them out and they become government. And on and on and on and on and on until everyone's wiped out, or you accept that democracy needs gun control. You know, you're sounding kind of tyrannical.
Thanks for watching, folks. For Really American, I'm Kenny Hesse. I'll see you in the next one.